Good afternoon, everyone. Bon après-midi tout le monde. Je suis très heureux de vous inviter à notre prochaine session, une session sur les véhicules automatisés. J'aimerais vous remercier d'avoir pris le temps de revenir. C'est toujours difficile après un lunch aussi copieux de revenir et de se sentir à l'aise pour participer à notre session. I'm very honored to lead this panel on the future of roads and road safety. Very glad that you decided to come back from lunch, such a very copious lunch. My name is Ibrahim Asso, and I'll be your moderator today. I'm the Director of Road Safety Programs with Transport Canada. In my role, I have responsibilities over several files, mostly around road users, drug impaired, distracted driving, and partly on automated and connected vehicle. It's my privilege today to be the moderator because we have assembled a very interesting but very experienced panel as well. That will be speaking on the future of roads and road safety. You all have seen in the program the description of the panel. I won't go through that. I would like to highlight just a couple of things, how we will operate this panel. I will be asking each of the presenters to come up here and to present for about 10-15 minutes. And then following that, the next presenter will come until we're done. And then at the end, we'll have a little bit of time for questions. I will ask you to write down some of the questions if you feel appropriately so to pass them on, or to use the microphone that will be in the room. Again, the title of the session today is The Future of Roads and Road Safety. We're missing one speaker, and as soon as she arrives, she'll be joining us as well. I'd like to introduce you the panel today. The four speakers are Ryan Stein from IBC, the Insurance Bureau of Canada. Ryan Stein is the Executive Director, Auto Insurance Policy and Innovation Research Team with IBC. Next to him, we have Julie Washburn, who's the Manager of Government Relations with General Motors of Canada. And next to Julie, we have Nicole Barranco, who's the Director of State Government Relations with Volkswagen Group of America. Again, I'd like you all to welcome our panels. So a little bit more about Ryan before I leave him the floor. Again, Ryan is the Executive Director with IBC. He's got over 10 years of experience in policy development, and he leads a team of policy analysts who work with the Canadian insurance companies to develop solutions to various legislative and regulatory issues affecting their businesses. And without further ado, I'll ask Ryan to come up.
Thanks for having me here today. I'm looking forward to speaking with you about the future of roads and road safety. So just a little bit about IBC, Insurance Bureau of Canada. We're the National Trade Association for Canada's property and casualty insurance companies. And the perspective that I'm going to be speaking today about is the perspective of the insurance companies, which are the companies that underwrite the risk of driving a car, and are also the companies that help people recover when they've been involved in a collision and help them repair or replace damaged vehicles. So we believe that automated vehicles will affect road safety in 4 ways. The first is that there will be fewer collisions, but because of the technology in automated vehicles, these collisions will be more expensive. Vehicles will have new risks. You know, we're all used to certain risks associated with driving a car now. Well, a car that has automated features that conduct much of the driving will have different risks that don't currently exist with operating a conventional vehicle. Vehicles will record significant amounts of data, and that data can be used by insurance companies to help assess the risk associated with using a specific vehicle, pricing the insurance for that vehicle, making sure it's as accurate as possible and represents the risk associated with using that vehicle. They can use the data to help determine the cause of a collision, and the faster you can determine the cause of collision, the easier it is to settle claims and make sure that people can get on with their daily lives. And the data will also help to identify, detect, and obviously combat insurance fraud. Lastly, there will be a shift in the party responsible for collisions from the human operator or the driver to the automated technology. I'll now go into a little bit more detail on these 4 aspects. Preliminary claims data shows that vehicles with automated capabilities are in fewer collisions, and those collisions are more expensive. So what we did here is we looked at 5 different types of vehicles. We pretty much chose them random as long as they had a conventional model and a model with automated features. And those automated features here are forward collision warning systems and automatic braking. And you can see in the claim frequency rate graph that in 4 of the 5 instances, the vehicles with those automated features were in fewer collisions. If you look at the claim severity graph, you'll see also in 4 of the 5 instances that the collisions were more expensive when it involved a vehicle with these features. That obviously makes sense. These vehicles have expensive, sophisticated technology, sensors, and software built into them that conventional vehicles don't. Regardless, I think the graph here that's the most important is the one on the claim frequency rate, because it really shows that vehicles with these features can be a lot safer than vehicles without them. And it's important for society that our roads are as safe as possible, and we see that there's a lot of potential with the technology here. Because of the potential, insurance companies are promoting the use of vehicles with automated capabilities. So we did a scan of North America, and we found that insurance companies are starting to offer discounts to their customers if their vehicle has certain automated features. So automatic emergency braking, that's one where there's at least one company in Canada who's offering a sizable discount if the vehicle has that capability. The other 4 features that are listed here are more prevalent in the United States, but we often find that in insurance, a lot of the pricing innovations, discounts, and new products actually start in the US and then eventually make their way over to Canada. So we think that this is just some evidence and interesting insight that insurers are really seeing the benefit of this technology and are trying to encourage people to purchase vehicles that have these features. Insurance companies are also making investments. They're making investments in telematics devices so that they can be able to access the data that comes from the vehicles, be able to analyze it, and make sure that they're pricing insurance as accurate as possible, and making sure that they have information so that they know what caused a collision and can settle the claim faster. Insurance companies are also partnering with vehicle manufacturers and technology providers this way so that they can best understand the unique capabilities of the various automated features being built into the cars, can learn what they mean to risk, and can develop policies and appropriately price them for vehicles with these features. People using automated vehicles will need to consider risks that are not commonly associated with operating a conventional vehicle. So we all know the risks now. Driving behavior. Is the person driving appropriately? Are they paying attention? Are they following the speed limit? Are the other drivers on the road doing that as well? The road conditions, potholes, fast turns, all that kind of sharp turns, all those kind of things, influence the risk of being in a collision. Weather conditions, can you see clearly? Is the snow getting in the way? And vehicle conditions, is the vehicle in good shape? Are the brakes working? This and that. Those are the risks that we deal with right now when we drive a vehicle. But there'll be new risks when operating an automated vehicle. So software and network failure. The technology is supposed to do something, and it just doesn't in a specific instance. That's a risk. Programming choices. The vehicle made a decision to avoid one obstacle but hits another and causes a collision. Was that the right choice? Did the technology make the right choice? That's a risk. Hacking and cybercrime, third parties being able to get into the vehicle, cause it to perform something that it wasn't supposed to perform, or trying to take the data that's included in it. And then failure to install or update software. Right now you expect people to drive safely, pay attention, but maybe in this world with automated vehicles, they'll have to make sure that in addition to maintaining their vehicle, they make sure that the software is up to date, or that the manufacturer makes sure that the vehicles have the software updated all the time. These are new risks that don't exist with operating a conventional vehicle. With automated vehicles coming to Canada's roads soon, are the provincially prescribed auto insurance policies and supporting legislation adequate? So I want to pay a little bit of attention here to the term provincially prescribed auto insurance. So, it varies based on which province you're in, but for most provinces, people buy insurance from private sector companies. But the policy that those companies are selling you is actually prescribed in legislation or regulation. And so that means that the coverage that you're provided, the benefits that get paid if you're in a collision, how you're compensated, how much you're compensated, is all written in law. And the public policy objective that underpins that law is that people are compensated fairly and quickly if they're involved in a collision. There's two ways to get compensated. The first, if you're in a collision, you go to your own insurance company and they will pay you certain medical rehabilitation benefits and any lost income if you have to miss work. Now, for many people, they might need more than what's in their auto insurance policy. So what's available to those people, if they did not cause the collision, is they can sue the party responsible for the collision, which is the other driver. That other driver has what's called liability coverage, and that liability coverage will pay out to the innocent injured person to make sure that they are fully compensated. Now, that vehicle liability coverage, how it's written in law, is based on human error, not product malfunction, meaning it pays out if the human in that vehicle caused the collision. It doesn't pay out if the technology caused the collision. Now, that makes a lot of sense right now because human error is the primary cause of more than 90% of collisions. But automated vehicles are going to shift this distribution to the vehicle manufacturer or the technology provider. And that means that there will be more product liability claims, which is a different and distinct form of litigation and is much different than the run-of-the-mill auto insurance liability claims that happen every year. Product liability claims are more complex and tend to take a lot longer to resolve than typical vehicle collision liability claims. So that would mean that people that are involved in a collision with an automated vehicle that have to go through this product liability litigation, it'll take a lot longer for them to be compensated. And when people are injured, they need to be compensated quickly so that they can move on with their life. And the fact that this takes longer goes against that public policy objective that I talked about before with auto insurance, is that people are compensated fairly and quickly. In January, the Council of Ministers responsible for transportation and highway safety came out with a policy framework. And one of the public policy areas that they identified here is auto insurance. And specifically what they said is amendments to provincial legal frameworks for vehicle liability and insurance will need to reflect the unique risks associated with automated vehicles. So what we believe is what's needed is that if someone's in a collision, whether it's an automated vehicle or a conventional vehicle, that they are able to be compensated fairly and quickly, that they don't have to go through this complex product liability litigation. So our members really studied this issue, and the solution that they came up with is called a single insurance policy. And that single insurance policy would cover driver negligence and the automated technology. The way it would work is that the automated vehicles insurer would compensate injured people regardless of whether the technology or the automated the automated technology or the human operator caused the collision. It'll provide compensation if that automated vehicle caused the collision. It doesn't matter if it's the human or the technology. So that means that the injured person will proceed through a similar type of process to get compensated as they do now, which is designed to make sure that they are compensated fairly and quickly. After having paid the liability claim, the insurance company for the automated vehicle could try to recover part of their payment from the vehicle manufacturer or the technology provider, obviously only if the technology was responsible for all or part of the collision. So we're not trying to get rid of the product liability litigation. We're just trying to separate it from the injured person so that they get compensated fairly and quickly, and the complex product liability litigation becomes a matter between corporate entities, insurance company, vehicle manufacturer, or technology provider. The last thing I'll say about the single insurance policy is that we think it should cover a cyber breach, but we also think that it should limit coverage if someone fails to install safety-critical software updates. Now, this model that I've described to you was actually recently passed in law in the United Kingdom. We have made we believe that it has a lot of merit and is something that's worth considering in the provinces here in Canada. We have suggested a few changes to it, minor changes. One is we don't believe that insurance companies and vehicle manufacturers and technology providers should be, fighting each and every collision. We believe that the auto insurance company should retain some of the risk associated with the automated technology and only try to recover in certain instances. We haven't figured out yet what those instances are, but we believe that whatever they try to recover should be subject to a deductible. So the insurance company, we believe, should retain part of that risk. We also think that the vehicle manufacturers, technology providers, and insurers should have access to a binding arbitration process to settle any disputes that might happen there as an alternative to going to the courts. We also think that data plays an important role, and I mentioned this a little bit before. The data, now, I know data is a sensitive issue, and rightfully so, and insurance companies get that. But we think after someone's been in a collision, that data could play a critical role. It could play a critical role in helping determine what the cause of that collision is. And the faster you can determine the cause, the easier it is to settle the claim. The faster you can make the payment to the injured person, compensate them, and they can get on with their daily life. So we were pleased to see in Transport Canada's safety assessment for automated vehicles, which was just released a few months ago, that Transport Canada wants vehicle manufacturers of automated vehicles to have processes in place to enable data sharing with vehicle operators and owners in certain instances, such as to facilitate insurance claims. So this concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone might have. I look forward to hearing from my fellow panelists, and I have my contact information up here in case you want to get a hold of me after this event concludes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan, for this. Next up, I will invite Nicole Barranco to join the podium. Nicole has been the Director of State Government Relations with Volkswagen's Group of America. Through her work in autonomous vehicle public policy, Nicole was appointed by Virginia Governor as the Vice Chair of the Unmanned System Commission. She also sits on the Uniform Law Commission's Highly Automated Vehicles Working Group as an observer and is currently participating in the development of the Uniform Law Commission Model Law. Please welcome Nicole Barranco.
afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Nicole Baranco. I'm with the Volkswagen Group of America. I'm going to try to be a little more generous to you Canadians than the basketball team that was also in Canada yesterday from the US, so sorry about that. I also want to point out my colleague, Rasika Rumatula from Volkswagen of Canada. Rasika, if you just wave. She's your point of contact here in Canada, so I want to make sure you all know her. Thank you so much for having me and for the introduction. Okay, let's do this. Okay. Many folks are surprised to learn of all of the brands that comprise the Volkswagen Group of America, or the Volkswagen Group, I'm sorry. So these, I thought I'd throw up a slide with the logos of all of our auto brands. However, this doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of the number of companies that we have enormous ownership stakehold in, as they are the building blocks of autonomous technology. Some of those you'll know are Aurora, Argo AI, traffic transportation services, Here, Get, even Electrify Canada has a role. So all of these companies are taking pieces of what will ultimately be one vehicle and working on the development of those bits. So when thinking of AVs, we think about population and transporting the population, and that leads us to focus on the increasing trend towards urbanization. But upon closer examination, we found in the US, and I believe this is also true in Canada, that it's not so much urbanization, it's a mass collection of suburbanization. And so these are suburbs that are attached to the city center. And why do you have that? Well, people are moving out for larger homes, a little more land, schools, employment, being closer to family. And that means that they're spending a lot of time in their car. And I don't know who commissioned this study, but I'd like to have been paid for it, because basically it says you spend most of the time in your car and you're going to work and home and school and running errands. So as opposed to like the first line, which is walking or biking. So thank you for that. So to illustrate the point, in the US, the two largest urban centers, LA and New York, in New York, almost half of New York is considered suburban, and in LA, 90% is considered suburban. So since we're spread out, and we're using our autos mainly for transport, we're driving everywhere for everything. So what is our future? Volkswagen answered that question in 2017, or gave us some insight anyway, into a concept vehicle that they showed at the Geneva Auto Show called Cedric. This Cedric, which is self-driving AV, is the newest people's car in a way. It's a driverless, pedal-less vehicle with this interior space is designed like a lounge. It's designed for group transport. It even has an AI personal attendant, so I love that part. This is a concept that will most likely be used by one of our companies called Moya, M-O-I-A, that's currently testing mobility solutions in Hamburg, Germany. Many ask about the benefits of AV. Why an AV? Well, the obvious benefits are safety, of course. Over the weekend, I saw a headline that said The average driver is driving distracted for 3.3 miles a day. Distracted 3.3 miles a day. So the AVs, we all hope and trust, will be safer. Increased mobility, of course, obvious for disabled, the elderly, even children, and reduced emissions and congestion due to electrification and shared mobility. That is to say that Volkswagen's vision for the future is autonomous, electric, connected, and shared. Like I said, our company Moya is testing currently in Hamburg, and right now they're using commuter vans and doing a rideshare on-demand test that will ultimately grow into autonomous and electric. It's in its initial stages. We also have a fleet of 5 level 5 AVs in Hamburg that are driving around, and they're communicating with the traffic signals and with the infrastructure. And then the other suppliers with whom we're working are all developing these building blocks. That's funny. This must be. Okay, so this is the slide I was going to skip, but just showing, you've all seen this, how long it's taken to go from horse and carriage to where we're going at the end of the row here with electric, autonomous, and shared. So let's see if I can skip through this for a second. Okay. In all of this, we call the driving disruption. And we all know this is shared mobility, mobility on demand, even goods on demand delivered through an AI apparatus. I've seen this in the US as a demo where you have this cooler-shaped object that's rolling down the sidewalk delivering lunches to office buildings. And even Audi is developing a project where they are delivering packages to vehicle trunks via drones. So this is all part of the disruption. Connected and autonomous, electric, and I haven't seen this yet here, but we have a plethora of these electric scooters all over the sidewalks in the US. So it's part of the disruption, and it's happening very quickly. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I want to pause because we have this hype curve where we've had the hype of AVs and they're coming and they'll be here and all of this. And let's all take a deep breath because that curve is now diminished. And I think now we're going to the production plateau of AVs where we're really being realistic about it. Right now, we're among human drivers. In 5 years, we'll hopefully have a mixture of some low-level autonomy and human drivers. And then hopefully in 10 years, we'll have fully autonomous vehicles, at least among us. These are fancy slides. I'm getting ahead of myself. So, and then earlier, Bryant Walker-Smith was talking about the trust factor, and that's really critical to our success in this space. AAA of America has conducted a study, and I'm told that is similar to CAA here, that in 2018, they tested to see how consumers felt about getting into an AV. And at that time, 63% said they had some trepidation about riding in an autonomous vehicle. Then the Uber fatality occurred, and now the trajectory is even worse for us. So now it's 71% said that they are reluctant. Now, let's harken back to the headline I read you about 3.3 miles a day per driver for distracted driving and 40,000 highway deaths. So we have to overlay these, and I think Bryant did a great job of pointing out these two challenges. So as a result, Volkswagen Group and Audi came up with a coalition. They devised this coalition that is all kinds of partners of ours. It's called PAVE, Partnership for Autonomous Vehicle Education. And the premise of PAVE is an education program that familiarity leads to acceptance. And in my experience, I will tell you, when people ride in an AV, they have acceptance. They really trust the technology. In fact, most say it's boring. It's designed to be boring. You don't want the car to, speed off and frighten you. So, but very few have had that experience. So we have to do more. We have to do more demos, more testing, more pilots. And the U.S. laws are and regulations have been created to make it an open and welcoming environment for AV testing. In the U.S., I think you all know that testing is legal unless it's determined illegal. So also in the U.S., the NHTSA has said a vehicle that meets the FMVSS, if it has brakes and steering wheel and all of this is legal. Well, then automakers have come up with the problem, what happens when there aren't any brakes or a steering wheel or lights, and there's just no clear regulation on this point. So what we do here is ask for an exemption. And then this continues to make the landscape a bit blurry, despite the fact that NHTSA issued guidelines, and we're so grateful for that because it gives us a chance to let the technology develop and then roll out slowly, but then enter the states and localities. Traditionally, the federal government has had authority over the car and states have authority over the driver, but then what happens when the car is the driver? Here you can see where the states have proactively passed laws. The states in purple are the ones that have passed laws. But keep in mind, the gray states are fair game for testing and deployment as well, with the exception of New York that maintains a law requiring one hand on the wheel at all times, which would then disengage the automated feature. So certain states have won pilot programs, as you can see, Arizona with Waymo, Texas with Drive AI. California has GM Cruise and Zoox, and Ford Argo AI in Florida, DC, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and so on. So as I conclude, the big picture is autos and technology companies are pouring billions of dollars into AV technology development, even though consumers are hesitant and the business case is uncertain and the regulatory burdens remain, and trust is the biggest hurdle. So to tackle this trust issue, like I said before, Volkswagen and Audi started PAVE. I wanted to show you some of the logos of the entities that have joined PAVE. It's automakers, the National Security Council, insurance companies, suppliers, disability groups, and more, because we all share a mutual goal of the safe deployment of automated vehicles. So in conclusion, here's a slide to show our past and our future. Henry Ford asked, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. They got a car. And our Volkswagen's Future Center says if I ask people what they want, they would say an extra car. But what they really need is an extra driver. So what does the future look like? At Volkswagen, we believe it is connected, electric, autonomous, and shared. Thank you.
Again, thank you very much, Nicole, for that. Merci beaucoup, Nicole. Our last speaker for today, for this particular session, Julie Washburn. Julie joined General Motors as Manager of Government Relations in 2017. She is responsible for building relationships with all levels of government on key areas such as trade, tariffs, urban mobility, and innovation. Under the urban mobility file, Julie works closely with ARIV, GM's recently launched e-bike company, and Cruise Automation, GM's autonomous vehicle partner. So with that, I welcome Julie to the podium.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me here today. We'll just skip right into it. Okay, so as everyone knows, we're kind of in the midst of a transportation revolution, and this is our CEO and Chairman, Mary Barra, who actually says that we're going to see more change in the next 5 years than we've seen in the past 50. So we're seeing this pace kind of accelerate, and so for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to try to explain to you what GM is doing to have a safer, better, and more sustainable future. So this is our vision at General Motors, is zero crashes, zero emissions, and zero congestion. So as you saw in the great pictures, about a century ago, everyone was given cars and trucks, and that gave everyone a great deal of freedom that was unprecedented at the time. And this changed a lot of things. But with this freedom came a lot of crashes, environmental issues, and also traffic jams. So as today, we've got a unique opportunity to help reduce or even eliminate some of these effects. So at General Motors, what we're trying to do is push the boundaries on technology and engineering to help create that world where we have the zero crashes, zero emissions, and zero congestion. So for zero crashes, we actually believe, people could arrive safer. For zero emissions, we do believe in the future is all electric, where the air is clearer and people are healthier. And then we have zero congestion. I drive into Toronto all the time. This is my main goal, where we travel safely, smoothly, and quickly to your destination. We do understand that this is a bold vision, but we do feel that it is our responsibility, as we were 100 years ago, introducing the car, to help try and shape how we get around now and into the future. So I'm going to tell you how we're looking to do that. So zero crashes. So, as today, we actually have a lot of technology in the car to help people who have been in an accident or going through an accident. So what we're committed to looking forward to doing is actually changing it so there is no accidents actually happening. These numbers won't surprise anyone in this room. The World Health Organization has 1.25 million people die in crashes each year. 94% of those crashes are a result of human error. The Canadian Transportation Safety Board has 160,000 car accidents every year. Roughly about 3,000 of those have fatalities. So we have a lot of technology in the car. These days we've got blinky lights almost everywhere if you're going into another lane, or if you're getting too close to the car in front of you, you've got warning signals. So we've come as close as we can without being fully autonomous with a lot of the technologies that are in there. But self-driving is going to actually kind of take over, going to help with that, removes that human error. And with that, such a large percentage of accidents, obviously that's why we actually are committed to an autonomous future. So this is our Super Cruise technology. So this was the industry's first hands-free, what do they call it? Hands-free driving system for the highway. So you can actually see there's actually 2 embedded technologies, which I'm very proud to say that our engineers here in Canada helped develop. There's the facial recognition, and you can actually see when she takes it back, there's a little camera on top of the steering wheel that makes you focus on the road. If you look too far away, it'll bring you back. It'll start flashing lights at you. See the lights on the wheel. The other thing is has vehicle positioning. There's a combination of precision radars, cameras, and LiDAR that have a base mapping system that does the external surroundings within the car. So Cadillac will have the Super Cruise on all models beginning in 2020, and they'll be rolled down to other GM brands post-2020. I've told it's super cool. So we actually acquired Cruise Automation in 2016, and that's really accelerated our ability to develop autonomous vehicle technologies. Since then, we've had 4 generations of self-driving test vehicles. One of them, which is the picture up here, you'll see has no driver, no steering wheel, no pedals, or no manual controls whatsoever. So it's a pure level 5. We actually mass produce these vehicles in our Orion facility in Michigan. I'm going to show you a video. This is, I believe, I don't know. Oh, yeah. So this is our Cruise Automation car in San Francisco. We do San Francisco. We also do Scottsdale, Arizona, and also Metro Detroit. We go to places like San Francisco because obviously, as you can see, very complex traffic patterns, which is roughly about 46% or times more frequent than other locations. Because we need our cars to learn, and learning in the most complicated environment is the best way to do so, as you can see. I'm not sure if this is the one. There's one where there's a raccoon that walks out and walks back in as well. No, that's it. So as you can see, it's some of the most advanced technology in the world on these vehicles, very expensive. Zero emissions. So we do believe in an all-electric future, but that does not just be battery electric. We also do believe in fuel cell electric vehicles. So 2 billion tons of carbon dioxide every year in the US is released into the environment. In Canada, that's 174 metric tons, which is roughly 24%. And this is coming from our vehicles. And what we do understand, we understand the science of global warming. We understand that this goes into the atmosphere. It affects our health. It affects our environment. So that's why we are committed to that, to electric vehicles. This is our Bolt. And the Bolt was really the first one that kind of cracked the code between long distance and affordability within our vehicles. The Bolt, that's with a B. I'm kind of glad they got rid of the Volt, could have got confusing. We are now working on the next generation battery electric vehicle architecture. And that's where we're really trying to, again, we're going to try and push the envelope with the technology, make it more desirable and attainable for everyone. I say that, but this is the car it's going to go into. This is a Cadillac. This will be the first to market with the new battery electric architecture. And Cadillac is actually going to be our EV brand, our EV lead brand, which is a really sexy car. The other thing we have, and I have to look down at my notes for this one, we do have the Silent Utility Rover Universal Superstructure. And I did joke with them. I'm like, did you come up, because it's called Cirrus. I said, did you find Cirrus first and then reverse engineer this? So Cirrus is basically a flatbed. I don't have a picture of it, but it's a flatbed. It's a fuel cell electric vehicle. It's very heavy duty. And what you do is you can put different top hats on top of this platform. So it's very flexible and it has a lot of capabilities. So you can put on top of there a delivery truck, an ambulance, and it's all emission-free. And it's run on a fuel cell. It's not as sexy as the Cadillac. That's why I didn't bring a picture. Zero congestion. So obviously, we actually do believe that a sharing economy is part of it as well. We feel that we really want people to travel more safely, smoothly, and quickly. And what might shock you is that, oh no, this will not shock you, the numbers. 397 hours of congestion in 2018. That's how many hours Canadians spent. That's on the average of 21 major cities in Canada. I bet everyone knows which one is the #1 city. In the US, the congestion actually costs about $300 billion a year. In Canada, it's $4.6 billion a year. So that's a lot of money being left on the table. So what we feel at GM is if we are on 4 wheels or you're on foot, you should be able to get where you want to go comfortably and with a price point that you can afford. So this is the shocking part. We don't feel that building more roads will solve the problems. There's vehicle technology. So as you went into it, I'll just quickly go over it. So vehicle has kind of 2 points. It's the vehicles talking to each other. You're able to get reduce congestion because you're actually not going to be getting into those crashes. So there's that safety aspect. But as everyone knows who's ever driven on the highway, sometimes you're not even slowing down because you're in that lane or you're even on that side of that road that has that crash on it. Everyone slows down on the other side to see the crash. So this will actually improve safety, but also improve on congestion because you'll have less crashes and therefore less people having to look. And then, of course, there's vehicle to infrastructure technology, which is kind of the holy grail. This is when everyone's talking to everyone. The lights are talking to them. You can actually monitor the flow of traffic. Right now you can get Surrey to tell you which way to go and which way to drive, but this is kind of it on steroids where, you're going to have the lighting system further down the way tell your car, hey, you're going to want to go a different route. So that's going to help with also with safety, but also with, congestion. So when we're talking about the shared economy, this is Maven. So Maven is our app. It is in Toronto. If anybody's from Toronto, you should download it. So we believe the shared economies will actually reduce congestion because a lot of people, as everyone knows, definitely in downtown Toronto, they do not buy their own vehicles because they couldn't find parking if they wanted to. But this way, you can actually download it. It's a car share. You can go pick it up. You can rent it for a day, a week, a month, in that. So this might surprise you that General Motors is involved in such a thing. But what's going to surprise you is actually already spoken about is Arrive, and Arrive is our new e-bike brand. It was launched in February, and that's a picture of the cute little guy right there. We've got two models. That's the Meld. And then we have the Merge, and the Merge is kind of cool because it folds all the way up and you can actually just kind of wheel it around. And we actually we worked closely with our GM engineers, so there's a lot of our automotive engineering went into the bike. It actually goes up to 25 kilometers per hour. It's got 4 different levels of pedal assist. So we find this really good because when you're doing the first mile, last mile, but also for people that can't afford a vehicle, you can actually now have a bike, which is incredibly healthy. You're getting exercise, but also it has that little bit of extra help in case you want to go that little bit further, or there's that giant hill that you don't really want to ride up. This can actually help you do so. And so it's kind of been proven that e-bikes can actually push the boundaries of that kind of future mobility going forward. And that's it. Thank you so much.